I like to remove as much friction as I possibly can in my workflow. When I first heard the idea of capturing information in a text file, it sounded really boring and pointless, but eventually I came to understand that this way of managing text and information is actually quite smooth and nimble and smart. It's so simple that it's deceiving. It seems like a real techie thing to do, but when you get the hang of it, it actually saves you a lot of time and allows you to capture more information and detail than you would have from your brain to your paper than you would have otherwise. Because your brain, your mind is kind of like a river, and the things that are flowing through it, if you don't reach down and catch them, will swim away. So that's what this podcast is about, or this vidcast or vodcast, or whatever you want to call it, is about. And it's a process that I have, a workflow that I have between my MacBook Pro and my iPhone 6. But I want to make it very clear that you can have this process, literally between any device that you want, as long as it supports Dropbox, really. And even if it doesn't, you can still do a lot of stuff with text files. So I guess we should start there with Dropbox. Dropbox is let's see if I can get this to work. Yep. Dropbox is a little app that I have up here that can basically take a folder on your computer, known as Dropbox, and then have all the contents sync to a web server, to the Dropbox server. Which means that if I were to delete everything on this computer and restart it and download Dropbox and log into my Dropbox account, I would it would recreate this folder with all of its contents in the Dropbox section. So I'd be right at home. Don't worry about any of the other folders. I created a folder right now called Notes. It has all of my text file notes. So let's open one of these text files. If you look, even when I just click on the file itself, you can see its contents in the preview. And if I open it up, I'm going to open it up with the app TextEdit. TextEdit is an app that exists on every Mac computer. On Windows, there's one called Notepad that also does text files. And it's basically just text. There's nothing else. If I open up a blank instance of TextEdit, you can see that it's literally just numbers and words and maybe some characters. But there's no formatting, like you don't see anything in italics or bold. You can't make the text much bigger. There are some options to do that within TextEdit, but ultimately a text file is just what it is, text. That's it. But that's the start of most ideas anyway. So whether I'm writing a lesson plan or a blog post, or I'm writing a to-do list, a quick one, or I'm planning out a project, whatever it is, I usually start with text. I don't start with the formatting. I don't start with, all the other stuff. And you notice when I opened up TextEdit, I'll do it again so you can see it. It opens up super fast from the minute I go. Nope, that didn't work. Let's try that again. From the moment that I hit enter to open it up, it pops up almost immediately. And a lot faster than Microsoft Word, a lot faster than Evernote, a lot faster than any of the other apps that you might use to capture text. Okay, so of course what I could do, since I have Dropbox set up, it syncs everything up, is I could save all my notes to the notes folder and have them sync up, and that would work just fine. But the problem is then you have a lot of note files that are just sitting around your computer, and in order to make a change to one or two of them, you have to go find that particular note, and you have to open it up and figure out where the last spot was, and it gets kind of tedious. So that's why I never used text files before this. So then I discovered an app, and the app is called NValt. And NValt also opens up very quickly, and what it essentially is a text file manager. All this stuff is coming from my Notes Dropbox folder, same one I just showed you, because you get to set which folder NValt reads from. And it looks through and it finds all the text files. And then you have a whole bunch of different text files that exist inside of NValt. And it's really nice. So with NValt, it's kind of genius because it saves everything automatically. And the only command you need is Command key L. The command key is that thing that kind of looks like 4 circles connected by lines, on your keyboard. So wherever you are in the app, if you type in Command L, it takes you to that search bar, and look how quickly you can search for things. If I want to find my blog post about, Inside Out, I can type Inside Out, and right there is my blog post. And if you noticed, I just kind of clocked through a whole bunch of different posts here, a whole bunch of different pieces of text, things I'm working on, and it's very simple. It's just text, like I said, but all this stuff, any change I make is going to get synced up to Dropbox. So if you watch this icon very carefully, you'll notice that if I just add a space here, that changes the file, and it gets updated up here automatically. It's updating my text file. Now that's kind of magical because you don't have to save anything, you don't have to do anything. It just, without even thinking about it, it automatically syncs everything up. That's pretty handy. So it's saved up in that notes folder. And this is really important, that having that folder in Dropbox, because it allows me to have control over this whole system on any device or app that syncs with Dropbox. And every time I edit a file, you'll see that spinning thing throughout this tutorial. And that's showing us that it's automatically syncing the files. And if you look in that folder, you'll see just those plain text files, and you can email those files, upload them to the web. They're viewable on any device, even computers from a long time ago. And that notes directory, it's just one big directory, so that if I scroll through, I can see everything. The reason why I don't need folders is because I have the search capabilities. I can search for something super quick, and it'll find it without even, because it doesn't have to search through a whole bunch of different complicated files. It's just looking through flat text, which is really nice. You can also tag things, and I'll get to that in a second. That helps you if you don't have a folder. You can do it that way. A genius thing about NValt is that as long as you have it open on your computer, you could be anywhere. You could be looking at a website and suddenly get an idea for something to write. And before, you would have to log into some website or bring up something. All you have to do is there's a key command that you set up in NValt, and it's called the bring to front hotkey. And I have it set up for Command, Option, comma. And you can set it for really any combination of keys that you like, but I have it set up for those. And wherever I am, if I type in Command, Option, comma, NValt will come up, and I can immediately do Command L and start to type for the thing that I'm looking for. So for instance, if I'm looking and I'm noticing like, oh, there's a new movie I want to see, I can bring up my NValt really quick. I can type in movies. There's my movie script, my movie file. And at the bottom, I can just write the movie that I wanted to see. Okay, very convenient. Now, if I go Command L and I type in something that does not exist yet, and I hit Enter, it will create that text file for me. And this is already made. It's already saved. You can already you notice the Dropbox is already syncing it up. It's already done. It's already in my system, in my workflow. It's very cool. And within these text files in NValt, you can use something called Markdown, which allows you to designate some formatting. So for instance, I won't go into details about Markdown too much, but one thing you can do with it is you can create a list with kind of dashes. So if I want to create a grocery list, and the first thing I want to buy is eggs, I can do a dash and I can type in eggs. And NValt knows when I hit Enter that I'm making a list, so I can add more things to my list to shop for in the grocery store, which is pretty handy. Okay, so anything from blog posts, lesson plans, anything pop up in NValt. It's very, very convenient that way. Another thing that you can do with NValt is you can take the text that you're working on and you can open it up in other applications. So these are other applications that I've downloaded. I'm not going to go through every single one, but just as an example, you could open it up in an app called Taskmator. What Taskmator does is it brings up your task list, but all the list items are now to-do items, and you can actually click them and check them off. And if you notice that when you check them off your list, they also get shown as crossed out in NValt. The changes get reflected. Okay. So very conveniently, very conveniently, if you cross it out, it will reflect. It should reflect in the other app, like so. Okay, So it's very convenient. You can make quick to-do lists this way. It means that you don't always have to take things out of NValt, but if you want to, you can. I, for instance, can create a blog post really easily by opening up a text file I write in Byword. And if you'll notice, some of this markdown that I've used, like I've put a pound sign here next to desktop, what that does is it tells Markdown that that's going to eventually be a header. And if that's confusing, don't worry. The fact is, you can do a lot of things with this text. If you like formatting, you can create formats. You can do that little formatting, and it'll if you put it into another app, it'll show up correctly. You can export it to HTML. All these notes can be exported to different file types, HTML, or even a Microsoft Word document if you're trying to be fancy, or you're trying to send somebody a Word document. So a lot of ideas start as text; they become other things. So I have these lists that I keep, and they're formatted in a certain way. So we have my grocery list, and we showed how we could open it up in another app. But let's say that now I'm on the go, I'm on my phone, and I want to add things to this list. So now I'm on my phone, and I have a couple apps that connect to that same database, that same Dropbox folder. Now, of course, you have to set up these apps to do that, but when you do, it's really useful. The first one is this app Write, which you'll see on the bottom left side of just the general app screen. I'm going to tap that, and it's going to open, and you're going to notice that it's going to reorganize all of my files in the order that I've edited them. Okay, so if I go to that grocery list, I'll be able to see my grocery list. It's very handy. I can add things to this grocery list by tapping and adding another section. This kind of dot in the middle, that if you press down on that dot, it'll actually allow you to move your finger to find like a very precise place to put your cursor. It's a lot easier than what Apple gives you as a default. You'll also notice some formatting stuff that is all Markdown related, and you can kind of experiment with that on your own, I guess. So that's a really great way of doing it. You can also create new text files, and that'll also get added to your Dropbox folder, and that immediately syncs up to your NValt. So for instance, if I created, let's say I edited my grocery list, and I added cucumbers and I added peppers, and I clicked that, and then let's say I also thought of something new, so I added a new note. It's a note, we'll call the note hello.text, and we'll say it's hello. Immediately, that's going to get synced up to my Dropbox. So now let's go back to my computer and take a look and see what happened. So back on my computer, you can see that if I go to my grocery list, it added those items immediately because Dropbox synced it up and because NValt reads from that folder. So immediately those items are updated. No matter where I added them from, they are updated on my screen over here. And if I search for that new piece of text we created, it will find it. I did not add this on my computer, I added it on my phone, but it's all connected. It's so nimble. Again, wherever I am, all I have to do is do that key command, and it's going to bring this up. Command L puts me in that search box, and I can search for anything I want, and within the first couple of letters, it finds it, and I can go on adding things to that list. Couple more things on the iPhone that make this even more efficient. Okay, back on my phone, there's some other cool stuff you can do. So we made this hello. I'm going to delete this since I don't actually need it. And another an app I love is called Taskmator. And if I go to Taskmator, it's right next to Write at the bottom of the screen. This is a little bit like Taskpaper in the on my computer, because if I go to that grocery list and now I'm looking at that's the wrong grocery list. Let's look at the right grocery list. If we import from our notes file, we go down to grocery. I've done a few attempts at this, so there's some old files lurking. You'll see my list that has some stuff crossed out. I can now cross out other stuff by just swiping to the right. If I just swipe to the right on that, I can also tap that item and it'll select it. You can kind of see there's kind of a highlight around it. And I can even see on my computer right now that it's updating on Dropbox. if I swipe and if I swipe left, I can undo what I just did, I think. Perhaps not, but regardless, it's a very handy tool. And if you hold down on an item, you can actually move it up in the list if you're prioritizing. One thing that's important to note about this is that when you load up the app, you got to go into the settings and hook up your Dropbox. The same thing for write. If you don't do that, then you're not going to see all the synced up files. Another thing is that for some reason Taskmator at first doesn't bring up everything. You got to tap this and go to import from cloud storage and go to your notes folder and then pick the thing that you want to open up in Taskmator. There might be an easier way to do this, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. One of my favorite apps that I've used with text files so far is an app called Drafts. It kind of flips the workflow on its head. When you open Drafts, you're immediately presented with a composition screen, and you can write anything you want. And then in the top right corner, there is a little button, but we'll get there in a second. In the top left corner, if you tap that, it'll show you everything that you have in your system right now. You can swipe right to delete it, swipe left to archive it. The archive basically just takes it out of your inbox and adds it to everything else. But here's the thing about this is that while it doesn't necessarily sync up with your Dropbox, it can add anything to your Dropbox. In fact, it can do a number of things. So I'll go back to my note, anything I want. And if I hit this top right drafts button, you see there's a number of things I can do to it. I can post it to WordPress. I can save it to Google Drive. I can text my wife. I can copy it to my clipboard. I can email it. I can message it. I can put it on social media. Really anything I can think of without having to go into those apps first. And for some of them, not at all. You just hit post to Twitter and it does it, which is really handy. So practical application for this. Say that I'm out and about and I realize I have to add something to my grocery list. I could go into Write. I could find my grocery list. It happens to be up because I just had it up. I could add a new item. Or I can make it easier on myself. And I just hit Drafts. I type in the thing that I want to add. And then I create an action. I only have to create this action once. But when I go here, I can click the plus button and I can click Create Action. And I can say I want this action to be Add to Grocery List. And I can even give it a color. And I'll hit the steps and I'll give it an action step. And the action step I want to give it is with Dropbox. I know that my grocery list is called grocery list. I know it's a text file, and I know that the path is in my notes directory. So this means that when I create a draft in Drafts, I can now have this action either create a new note called grocery list, which I already have, so I'm not going to do that. I could have it replace my current grocery list, which would not make much sense since I need the grocery list. Or I could have it prepend or append, which makes a lot more sense. Append means it's going to add whatever text I have in the draft to the end of the list, and prepend means it's going to add it to the beginning of the list, so depending on what you want. I think for grocery it makes more sense to append it. So we're going to append it, we're going to save, and we're going to back out of this. And one last thing is that if you swipe left on any of these action items, you can edit them. I like to archive my drafts every time I send them somewhere. That way they're not sitting in my inbox in Drafts. If you remember over here, there's an inbox and an archive. Inbox I like to keep very clean. So hummus is my thing that I'm adding to my grocery list. Oh, and one thing I forgot is that when I append it, it's going to come in just like this, where it has those brackets and draft. That's the text of my draft. But remember, my list is formatted with hyphens or dashes. So I'm going to add a little dash there. Now I only have to do this once, and now it exists in my thing. And I can even edit it and drag it up to the top so that it's available to me when I need it. Okay. So now I'm in somewhere, and I'm thinking of hummus. And really all I have to do at this point is tap my drafts button, type in hummus, which I've already done, click on the little top right drafts button, and add to grocery list. Boom, it's added to grocery list. Now if I go into Write, you'll notice it added hummus, it appended hummus to the end of my list. Another good idea is to have a running movies list. I have mine here. But say that I'm out and about and this is not open, and I want to add. Someone says there's a movie you should watch. I can hit my drafts button, type in the movie name, and when I hit that upper right button, I already have an action set up to append to movies list. So I can tap that, and it goes away, and that's it. That's all I have to do. Then later, when I'm looking for a movie to watch, I can either go to NValt or I can go into Write, and I can look at movies, and at the very end, once it updates, will be the movie name, the new title. So it's very convenient.